Greetings, salutations, and all good things in between. What's up, everyone? Matt here. Happy Friday. Hope you had a good week. Hope you got a lot done. It's the end of February, so how'd February treat you? Were you productive? I know I got a ton of stuff done, and there's so much coming in the future. It's ridiculous how much this AI stuff is really, it can be an assistant for productivity. But that's not the topic today. So, what have I got in store for you? Well, today I'm strictly sticking to, I'm just going to answer your questions. There was a boatload of questions that have come in through YouTube, and some of them have been kind of backing up for a while, so I'm going to spend some time answering those. And then, of course, if you have any questions for what you're working on right now, at the end of the live stream, I will be doing a live Q&A, so get your questions into the chat, and I'll get them answered if I can. All right, that's it for this little intro. Let's get to it. All right, thanks for being here. I do appreciate everyone showing up. So before I start diving into the questions that I'm going to answer from YouTube, I do have just a couple of little updates that I want to throw out there about what I've kind of got going on, and just to keep people updated, right? So if you've been checking out the answer portal at all, you may have noticed some newer things have been showing up. And that's going to be a continuing thing, and big stuff coming down the line. But the thing that I really want to touch on today is, or at least this little moment here, is there is a new auto table guide. So there is a bookmarks auto table. This is a system that I came up with that solves the problem of I need to easily get back to this individual record that I'm on that's unbelievably deep inside the inside my database, right? So like you've all had the situation where it's like, all right, I click on the bottom thing and then I click on something and I click on another record and I click on another and another and another and another and another and eventually I'm like way down here, right? And sometimes it's like, all right, there's a problem with this, and I need another person, like an admin or whatever, or the employee that maybe made the record. I need them to go in and fix something. But I got to get them back to this exact record. It's kind of a pain inside AppSheet. Bookmarks is the thing that easily solves this. It's literally, you can create a little action button that floats down at the bottom. You click it, it takes you right back to that place. You turn on like a toggle for the system, so that you can easily get back to your bookmarks. All right, so what have I done? I have created a guide that will walk you through the final setup that you need to go through in order to actually set up the bookmark. Because there are some things that you need to do when you're setting the bookmark up that will make it happen. Like there's actions you need to make, there's a table you have to add, there's stuff you need to do. So this guide walks you through how to set up the bookmarks system inside your app. Check that out at your leisure. All right, that is the only little kind of update thing that I wanted to throw out there. Let's get to the meat and potatoes today. So over this past month and some from before, there's been a lot of really good comments that have come in on a whole bunch of different topics, a whole bunch of different videos that I've put out there, and I've been largely letting these kind of pile up because I wanted to do something like this, and I'm thinking maybe the end of the month is a good place to do that. So maybe this will become a recurring thing, with the idea being if you have an immediate need, you could either join a live stream, and I always have a Q&A session at the end, get your question answered there, or you could submit it into the answer portal and get your answer there, right? But if you have something that, would be relevant to a video and you want me to kind of go over it here, put it in the comments for the YouTube video in question, and I'll go over them. Okay, so let's dive in here. What have we got? So if we just here we go. I'm just starting. So this is all of the comments and on YouTube, and I just scrolled all the way to the bottom. These are the ones that I haven't responded to yet, and I'm just going to slowly work my way up to the top. The one that I really want to start with, so down here at the very bottom, man, Diogo, man, I've been really slacking on answering this one. It's a 6-month-old question. You see, I haven't answered it because I keep it here because I do intend on answering this, but every time that I go in and I start looking at the answer for the question is, can you show us how to do a script? Whoa. Could you show us how to do a script that will create a recurring event for a Google Calendar, right? Turns out there's a lot involved in getting that to work. And so it's one of those where it's like, all right, I can't make a quick little like 5-minute thing, and it'd be like a deep dive that I'd have to do and set it up. So eventually I will get there. So that little thing about there. Sorry, Diogo. All right, moving on. So the first one that I really want to dive into is, let me switch to, this one, is this from Jamie Feeney 4576. He says, hi, thanks for the video. Your solution for looping is very elegant. It's not my solution. Steve came up with it. Just throwing credit where credit's due. I have attempted to follow the video to incorporate it in the app in the building for my girlfriend's food selling business. I have everything working except that it only runs the loop once. And I think I knew why. Long story short, what Jamie is trying to accomplish here is he wants to take the line items from an order and basically copy those into another table over here. Okay, so there is a relatively straightforward way to do this, and it doesn't involve looping. Looping is one method that you could use to do this, but there's actually another way that you could do this. So if what we're talking about is you've got like an order table and you've got order line items, and what I want to do is I want to take these order line items and for each one of these, create another corresponding item over here in another table that has the details, and maybe it's linked to it and blah, 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 right? So like maybe a order fulfillment record, or maybe a order check-in record, right? Like we have a delivery that came in, and I want for everything that was ordered, I want a delivery record where we can check off, yep, it was done, right? Okay, so any number of reasons why you would want to be able to take the details from one and drop it into another, right? Okay, so the method for accomplishing this, so if I switch here, if I switch back here, so the method that you were originally focusing on is the looping video. There's another option. If you don't do that and you instead do the video that's actually just right above that one. Sorry, I'm having computer issues right now. Gotta go back to work, just clicking on the wrong things over and over again. Come on, we gotta get back to where I was. And my scroll doesn't work. There we go, okay. Yeah, there we go. All right, this one, blueprint tables. If you go and look at the method that I propose for the blueprint table, this is the other way that you could accomplish what it is you're trying to do. So again, we have line items and we're trying to copy those line items to another table, right? One way that you can do that is you can create a loop that loops through these to create the thing over there. Another way that you could do that is you could create an action that says, that lives on the line items, that creates a record in another table using values from this row, and it creates the record in that other thing. And you don't execute that in a loop, you execute it in a ref new style of fashion. If I show you what this looks like, I actually have something like this set up inside an app that I've been working on forever that maybe I'll eventually put out. It's a location inventory tracking app. This app is highly complex. It started as, just to give you a little background, it started as a solution for somebody that was like, hey, I need some location tracking, and I started building something. And then when it got to a point where I'm like, all right, I'm going to give this to them, I was testing it and came to the conclusion, yeah, but it's missing a lot of stuff. And I started adding more, and I started adding more, and started adding more. And then eventually it got to a point to where it's now too complicated to just be like, here you go, play. Like, you can't make sense of it. It's way too complex. It's got audits and stock taking and inventory and like order receiving and losses, and there's so much. It's really gotten to a point where it's a monster. But part of this is the exact thing that you're looking to do. So if I go to my action section and I go to, so I have order details, right? So this is my line items for all of my order details. And you can see I've got, let's see, where's the, do I have the ref new? Yep, here we go. Ref new inventory, this orders detail, right? Okay, so like what this does is it says for each item, for like this record on the order details, create a new row in another table using values from this row inside the location inventory, where the location is whatever, the product is like whatever I'm using inside the order detail, and then whatever other details that I need to set up, right? But the idea is that I'm creating a row from the actual line item to the other place that I want to do. And then what I do is I don't execute this in a loop. Instead, what I do is I just execute this ref action on all of the order items. I'm trying to see if I have that in here. It doesn't look like I do. But like, okay, so if I just take this, this would be, okay, not that one. Ref update, order details. All right, so if I just like take this one over really quick, right? Okay, so what I'm saying is I would need, oh, that's why. I need to go to my order table. Here we go. So if I'm on my order table and I'm going to say I want to something like a ref something. Kind of like this. Yeah, kind of like this. Okay, so the order of operations is first, you need to go to the table of the records that you want to move data from, and you make your ref new action over there. That's the thing that says from here, go over there, right? Now, how can I link things to the specific record that I need this to link to? Because maybe that other record that I'm creating has to be linked to the order or to the line item that I'm doing. The easiest way to do that is in that other table, make a column that is a reference or maybe an enum base type reference to the order, the line items. That way you can say, well, this order fulfillment record came from that order detail. And then when you have that link, in my action, all I'm doing is I'm setting that link inside the field, right? Just set it to that. And then in the default, and then I set that with the action. And then in the initial values on the table back there, I can then create like an if statement that says, if there's a link there, get the value, like do a dereference. Follow what I mean? This way it makes it really easy for me to connect the thing and get the details that I need, but I don't have to do any kind of crazy heavy lifting or anything. Really, all I'm doing is setting the value of that ID, and then the other stuff happens over there. I guess what I'm really trying to say here is, instead of trying to accomplish this in one shot, the real solution is kind of separate where the bits are happening so it all works in the efficient manner that it needs to, I guess. If you look in that looping video, there is another layer to that shows, like, after it executes the first loop, it executes a ref loop, a ref action on all of the items that it just made. Go look at that. That's going to show you the same sort of thing that I'm trying to do, because what I'm doing there is I have order details and order fulfillments, and what I did is in the loop, I just said, create the order fulfillment for each of the order items that you just made. There's lots of ways to slice and dice everything with this. That's one of the things that I love about AppSheet. It's never ending. It's never ending ways you could go about it. That's one of the things that I just wanted to dive in and spend a little time going over. All right, back to the question. So that was this looping one. Okay, the next one I want to focus on, I'm just going to work my way up. So on the blueprint table, kind of that method I was just talking about, Chandralim5860 asks, hello Matt, happy new year. What if I wanted to add a condition to the table? Can you enlighten me? All right, so if we go to this video, and if I go into the details here, right, I've got this ending point link that is this app. So let's go to this. Okay, if we look under the hood, you can see how this shopping cart thing works. And so now we can see what is it that we're trying to do, right? So this is the blueprint table where I'm trying to copy something from the customer products into like a new, or from products to customer products, right? And so what if I wanted to put a condition on that? So like maybe the condition would be something like, copy all of the products from the master product table into the customer products, but only do it where there's a list of the categories, right? All right, so how would I do that? So here I am in my shopping cart 4.1 customer products app, okay? So if you go to this sample app and you just follow along, this will walk you through it. So what we're talking about is I've got this products and I want to like not copy all of them, okay? So I'm copying from products to customer products, which means customer products is a child of customers, which means in customers, I can create this list of the categories that I want to be copied, right? So what I would do is in customers, I would have a column inside here that would be like an enum. So if I just take something over temporarily, like this automation trigger. So like I would come in here and I would make this like an enum list, and then this would be maybe a base type ref to my product categories table, right? Because like I'd have another table inside here that lives above products that is the categories of the products, because then that makes it easier to work with those lists, because I can just say, well, select the categories that you want. And then those categories have related product ref lists that I can just grab, you know? So I would have a list here like this where I would basically just come in here and give someone the ability to select what is the categories that you want. And then in the loop that you've got running, that's where you put that condition that you want. You've got one of those actions is the thing that actually makes the thing that needs to happen. That's where you put this condition. So on the customers, I'd have a list of all of the things I want to copy, right? So if I go now to behavior and we go to customers, right? So here's this ref new that says copy products for customer, okay? Which says on the customer table for all of the products, for every record in the table, right? For every product, copy it. Okay, this is the part that I need to change. Instead of just every product, what I would want to do is I would come in here and I would say, select for me the products where, and then I would come down here and I would have like this enum list, right? That would be like my customer categories or whatever. So then I would do something like in, zoom in a bit for you. I would do like in, and then this would be the product category, right? In product category, this row dot customer product categories, just like that. And then I would close the in and close the select. And this gives me that sort of, it's the same idea. It does the exact same thing that the original thing was doing, but what I'm doing is I'm restricting the products that I'm saying, here's the list of stuff to do all of these. I'm just whittling that down somehow. Now, the reason that will work is because this action lives on the customer table. And in the customer table, I'm going to create that new column that is the enum list of the things that's approved for this customer, the categories. There's a few different ways that you could actually go about that. Like you could, I'm not even going to go into them. Yeah, this is the easiest way to do it. The thing with AppSheet.
Where are you going? Another way. Always another way.
I always love getting that one in. So Yeah, this is probably the easiest way to do it. You just focus on this actual action that is the thing that's doing the ref new copying to wherever you want it to go. That's the thing that you just want to restrict. That is what I got for that first one, and that was Shopping Cart 4.1. Check it out. All right, let's go back to comments, and if we go all the way to the bottom. All right, so that was Chandralim. Now, going back here, so the next one is about the Enhanced Dashboard Sample app. It comes from Jinting Kenna 6271. I have a problem. My dash table says, say I have a column worker that holds 2 names in one row. The problem is the control box only pick probably one value that holds 1 name. If the row holds 2 names, then the particular task is not showing. Is there any workaround? Absolutely. The problem you're facing there is a matter of logic, syntax. Specifically, what's happening there is you're trying to compare a single value with a list. The problem is you're saying, does this equal the list? And it doesn't. That'll never work out. You got to change the logic there, and instead of doing an equal sign, switch to the in statement. So if I just go to one of these apps, if I come back to this one, we'll look under the hood. Okay, make sure that I'm on the right page here. Yeah, okay, so the thing you're going to want to do is, I'm wondering if I could just show you on the dashboard app. If I look for dash, I have an enhanced dashboard sample app. Let me bring that one up. That'll probably work better. Okay, the idea, right, is inside my slices for the dashboard that's showing what's going on, right? I've got all of these statements that each one of these is looking at one of the items inside the filter. And the filter lives on the current user, right? Okay, so in my filtering slice, right? So for each of the items that could have something, I've got one of these little if branches that says, if there's something inside that, do something with it, otherwise true. And the otherwise true thing basically tells the system, skip this idea. Okay, so the problem that you're facing, right, is the fact that we've got something like this going on. Now, let's say that perhaps the construction type column for this table was not an equality, right? It is not a single value. That type is a list column instead. So it has a whole bunch of types. How can I change this so that it works? Okay. The thing is, you have to do apples for apples, right? So my filter construction type, okay, so like right now, this is a single value, and right now this is a single value. Okay, so if I was to change this, I would want, I'm going to change this to where they're both lists, right? Okay, when you do that, what you do is you have to use is not blank intersect. This combination right here, this is not blank intersect thing. What this does is it tells the system, there's 2 parts to it, right? So intersect tells the system, I've got 2 lists, put them together and give me the common items. Now think about that. So I've got 2 lists and give me the common items. So I've got a list of type categories over here, and I've got a list of type categories over there. Do they share any? If they do, create a list of the things that are shared. Then I wrap that in an is not blank. Okay, now I've got my logical statement of, is this a yes or no? Is there a common value? Yes, show this record. No, don't show this record. So that's the idea with this is not blank intersect idea. And let me zoom back out here. So you would say is not blank intersect, and then you got to split up the intersect list. So like this would be the first list, and then I would come down here, and then I would extract out, this would be a list here. All right, but here's a special thing that I'm going to throw in here, is that you can't just leave that like it is, because this is, we're getting into the weeds here. This is a list of lists. It's a single value that is a list, and that value is a list of lists. Okay, it's a multi-dimensional array if we want to get technical. AppSheet and this is a single value multi-dimensional array. So it's flat. It doesn't have the multi-dimensional aspect inside it where, like I'm saying, that filter construction type column value that you're pulling is a list of things, right? So like I got to prepare this. First thing I do is the index thing. That pulls out this individual list out of this list right here. Like the current user filter construction type, that's a list of all of those things over there. The filter construction type is a list. See, it's a list of lists. The index gives me that first list by itself, but it's flat. It's not a list, it's a string value. So you have to put it back into a list in order for AppSheet to be able to work on it. And you do that through split. So you say split that, and we're going to split it by space, comma, space, because that's the value that's used for the default separator. And then that would be the formula that I would use for this. And you can see it's not, because none of these are lists, but like I would say this would be a list and then this would be a list. And so then I'm saying, cool, intersect those two lists and give me the common values between those two, and then wrap that whole thing in an is not blank, because again, you got to keep in mind where we are. We're in a slice filter, right? And we're trying to decide, should we show a record or not? So are there common elements? Yes. Show the record. It's all a matter of syntax, right? And these sort of things, like you often get into the weeds on why some things work and some things don't. But yeah, if you have any further questions about this sort of stuff, let me know and I will help you out as best I can. Moving back to the questions, if we go to the next one. So this one is about the shopping cart build, specifically about discounts and totals. It comes from Dustin McGee 540. He asked, "What's up, Matt? Been following your build series for a few days, trying to assess where I've been going wrong blindly." Been there. I've been out of the programming loop for 20 years since I started in MSX SVB. It sure has changed. Your build is a small peek at the foundation that I'm attempting to produce. I am an automotive diagnostician and run the company solely. Labor, billing, inspection, service records, expenses, taxes, blah, 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 blah. So far, I've started with AppSheet database, still buggy. Let me zoom out so we can zoom back in. All right, I finally have a customer vehicles table to mesh with the vehicle inspection checklist. That took forever. I am now attempting to add tables I am now attempting to add in tables one at a time for billing for vehicle service records. I have a table built that contains a concatenated, not as an expression, part description. It has the parts manufacturer, the part number, and the description typed out as one long string. Having so many columns for one part was killing me, trying to get them to autofill. Next column, the next columns have part cost, part shipping, and a virtual column that adds those together and adds the taxes to get the part price. The service record prices will include everything, no breakdown of cost. We'll need to include quantity into the equation, as this will be a multi-line part order for a parts total summary. The issue: I have parts, services, which has labor rates for different aspects of the jobs, and fees, like battery cores, subcontracted work, etc. Labors and fees and taxes are not taxed, just be ID numbers, description, and hours and quantities. Will I need to somehow start my service record like your new order form? Enter the customer, the vehicle, the auto date, the record number, blah, 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 the status. And what I'm thinking is a category to separate the three different aspects of the service record and still be able to produce a final bill summary and still be able to run the process to convert it to a PDF. Is there any rational way to do this with AppSheets, or are these headaches I'm getting from other sources like cancer? LOL. Appreciate your wisdom so far, Dustin. Okay, I think I know where you're going wrong. I've been here. Okay, Okay, I don't usually swear on my channel. I try and keep it relatively PG-13, but there is a thing that I've kind of keyed in on over the years. In AppSheet, there's a billion ways to do anything, right? Which means there's also ways that you could build a really convoluted system to accomplish something. And a lot of times those are workarounds to some problems that we have. Other times those are workarounds to the problem of like the citizen developer not having the specific knowledge that they need. Like you're trying to build a house, but you don't have a concrete mixer. You've got all the concrete and you got all this, but you don't have the thing to like actually do that. So you built all of this stuff to make it so you could do that. This is a far easier way if you just get the right tool. This is a problem that everybody faces when they're trying to learn AppSheet, right? Because there's so much to learn. The problem you're facing is the fact that you're trying to, this is just my opinion, right? That you're trying to put like a bunch of these things into a concatenation instead of separating them all out. And this is something that I've done myself in an effort to try and keep the database, clean and tidy or whatever. But really what you're doing there is you're putting a barrier between being able to use the data, right? So it's like, I want to use the part ID, but the ID number is part of this concatenation of like the part number, the description, and something else. So if I want the thing, I got to extract it out. You see the difficulty? Instead of just having the part number inside of a column. The real difficulty that you're really facing is not like the problem here, right? It's not a now problem. It's when you set something up like that, it's downstream all the problems. Because okay, I want to get a list of all of the part IDs for the things that are really close to being out, and so that we can reorder them, right? Okay, well, you see how that's difficult now, because I don't just have those by themselves. Now think about if I had like the date for like when this thing was going to expire. Like maybe I had a dates column where it had a whole bunch of dates inside it. I'd have to somehow get that out of that so that I could do some date stuff with it, right? Same thing for like, okay, like downstream, I'm trying to get that list of all of these IDs. Well, how do I get that out of that thing? That's a real pain. Now, it's a real complicated thing. If I just have them inside the record, this like a column by itself, I can just say, I like create a slice and say, cool, slice name, and then in square brackets, the name of this IDs. Whew, there's my list. Done. I could create an interactive dashboard where I've got the ability to do all kinds of filters and whatever, and like get this little list, and I can have like a download button. Done. Right? These are things that I've found over time, and right, I call them AppSheet fuckery. It's where convoluted whatever to accomplish the thing, and it works. But it's this giant Rube Goldberg machine of data manipulation in order to get where you want. Yeah, this is something that I've largely fought with a lot. The biggest thing that like I usually get is when you start building things in a more traditional database style, things get really big. Like suddenly my table has 50 columns and I've got 50 tables, all of them with 50 columns. And like, yo, I went from having this really small, nice, neat, compact, whatever, to this monster that's really kind of complicated and I can't really hold it in my head anymore. All right. But in order to do all of the things that you want to do, that's where you got to go. Right? And so it's just a matter of taking things slow, bit by bit. None of this is actually very hard. Like this, the difficulty with AppSheet is it's a law of attrition. It's a law of numbers. Like the thing you're trying to do is like a 50-step process. Each of the individual steps is actually very simple and straightforward. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's 50 of them. You got to do all 50 of them in the right order. And if you mess up any one of those things in that chain, the thing doesn't work. That's the difficulty, right? So it's just a matter of going slow, making sure you really kind of understand what's going on each one of these little levels, and you should be good. And if you get stuck, you can always ask questions for me. Head on over to the answer portal and ask a question. Oh, call to action. Going back to the next question. All right, so this one comes to us from Peterson CPXB, can't speak. It's on one of the older live streams, okay? The question is, I would love to see multi-select files and images on an AppSheet to achieve the result I wanted. I had to write an app script to create a drive folder and then set the images as part of the file path, as part of the ref of the same file path as auto-created, so I can add multiple images and manage them. However, it doesn't work on iPhones because it doesn't open external on Google Driver app. iPhones are always kind of a problem. The solution that I've done for this, right? Some will say, well, you could just do like, I'll put in like 5 columns for images, right? And then maybe I'll do like a show if, so that if the one before it has something, show the next one. Too much work. Easier way to do this, add another table. Add an images table that allows you to create a record that's ref connected to whatever it is that you're dealing with, right? And in that, like, all that is an image. Like, and maybe you have like a description. And see, this is where, like, when you add that new layer, you start finding, oh, well, I can add a whole bunch of stuff. Like, well, I want the date. I want the person that did it. I want a space for comments. Maybe I want an approved column. Maybe I want a space for someone to write something for when it was not approved. Why? Maybe, and then like I could put all kinds of conditional formattings on that to where if somebody says it's not approved, the Y column shows and it's required, so you have to answer it. Maybe I give them some enum drop down so they can select some common issues that we have, with like an other at the bottom that then makes another thing visible where they have to put something in if they select. You see what I mean? Suddenly you have all of the space to do all of this sort of stuff with the things that you were working on. And you can create a flow for like ingesting the data from the person that's fairly straightforward. You can use save events and deep link actions where you can say, when somebody's filling out an inspection form and it's like, all right, I have photos, I can give them a field to click on that's at the very bottom of the form that says upload photos. And that immediately takes them to this other table, right to the form. And maybe I have that form configured to where as soon as you drop into it, the image thing opens, or it opens your camera so that you can take a photo of whatever you're doing, right? And then as soon as you save that, comes right back to it again. Or maybe there's some buttons that I put at the bottom that gives the person, like after I upload the image or after I take the image, what do you want to do now? I want to do another one. And it goes right back to it. Another one, another one, another one, another one. It's like DJ Khaled, another one, right? And then eventually they can just say, I'm done. And then that takes them to whatever. And maybe that kicks off some chain of actions that goes back to the parent thing and updates something and does something else and then kicks off an automation. You know what I mean? There's ways to make things happen. It's just not as straightforward as you're thinking. And a lot of people will kind of poo-poo a lot of this not straightforwardness and the fact that we have to build all of these things. But if you take a step back and you look at the whole picture and don't just focus on the thing that you're trying to do now, and you kind of look downstream at some of the other things that you could do, building this out in a different way might be advantageous to you downstream because you're trying to do something else later on, right? So things to keep in mind. Moving on. All right, the next one comes to us from Wargage Sum. He's a warg. He asks, please, can you make a smart link shortener software with AppSheet? I need a customer user dashboard per login with user data analytics. Can I make a smart link shortener software with AppSheet? Maybe. Maybe. The reality though is like the URLs that you get from AppSheet are usually pretty long anyways. And every time, not every, but most of the time when I try and hide the URL using a hyperlink formula, like inside of a text message or inside an email or something, it doesn't really work. The hyperlink part just kind of fails for whatever reason, and it just shows the link. The link works, like it does the right thing, but it doesn't do the hyperlink part for whatever reason. Sometimes it does work, sometimes it doesn't. I've yet to figure out why. So you might be able to do something by creating some kind of smart link shortener to where like you sent a text message that, all right. This is a real lateral use of AppSheet, but you could create a system to where you could send out text messages or you could send out a push notification. So people have to actually natively install the app on their phone. But if they do that and you have secure login turned on, then you can push notifications to the devices using the internal push notification thing. And you could create a system to where, you know, I take a really long URL and I push that into the deep link, and maybe they tap that and it takes them right to the thing, and then they're looking at that record, and you could hide that in the app to where, because hyperlink works in the app, so that it says click here, and they go to whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you probably could, but probably not worth your time. This was me, I would just probably try and find an actual shortener. This is one that I've been putting off for a while now. Tanjeed, my friend, really wants to see an online payment gateway. And Tanjeed, it's coming. I've been working on script integrations with the answer portal. You can go on over there. I have support tiers that I'm working on. Largely everything that I'm focusing on right now is for the apprentice tier. But I'm slowly working my way down. But part of that is I want to completely automate the aspect of, hey, I want to sign up for one of your support tiers. Cool. Do the thing. There's an automation that kicks off that sends you an email. In the email, there's like a subscription link that you can click on. That subscription link is stored inside my product over there in like my product table. And it's a URL that I got from Stripe, and I put it over there, right? So it's pseudo dynamic in that way. And then like whatever you said you wanted, you get that thing, and then you click on it and you go do it. I've got all of this kind of working pretty smooth. There's a few wrinkles that I'm still working on. Largely the wrinkles come in when I'm getting the webhook back from Slack. And you know, I've created a Google script that's basically establishing an open endpoint that this thing is pointing to that catches what I need. And so it's a matter of like, you've got to configure that catcher pretty specifically. And what I'm trying to search for is how can I configure the script so that it doesn't require any kind of hard coding aspect. It's more dynamic in the sense of you don't need to worry about that. You just feed it your parameters, like feed it the things that you want to work with. That's what I'm trying to get to. It's a slow process. I have a lot of projects I'm working on, but we're getting there, Tanjeed. It's on my mind, my friend. It's there. It's not going away. The next one comes to us from user Pluffy or something like that. It's again from the discounts and totals shopping cart build. It says, very nice work. I've been trying this for a while and watched all of your shopping cart builds. Really great content. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I also bumped into a great 2-hour video, Google Sheet POS system. The guy built a shopping cart with a script, which now makes me think we can combine AppSheet and Google Sheet script to make it very efficient. Absolutely. However, I will throw out, since AppSheet has released automation, there is a lot of people that come to me that are approaching things from this mindset of, well, we'll create a script to do whatever. And largely, you don't need to do that. And doing that introduces stumbling blocks. Not really stumbling blocks. It's just that implementation has certain difficulties that you wouldn't have if you did this another way. So another way you can do this, the way that I'm focusing my efforts on, is you can do a great deal of things using automation. A great deal of things, right? And like the only thing that it's not really that good at is the API stuff. Why? Because it's difficult to work with the API, especially if you run into any kind of problems and you're trying to debug what's going on. Debugging the API with AppSheet is a royal pain. Scripts, on the other hand, are a lot easier. So what I've found is a really, really, really efficient dance. Google Drive, Google Sheets for my data source, AppSheet for my front end, and the primary thing that manages all of the back and forth and the logics, and like it's the thing that's doing most everything. And then I have bots that execute scripts that do a specific thing. Like I've got, say I want to get an AI response from OpenAI, right? Okay, I'll do most everything inside AppSheet except for the send the thing to OpenAI and get the response back. I'll do all of that through a script because it's way easier to debug over there. Way easier to debug over there. But I won't do things like, okay, now that I got the value from OpenAI, let's find the record that this thing came from and take this value and throw it into that sheet. And you know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not trying to do any of the data manipulation things using a script. It's not what I want to do. It's harder over there. A lot of people think it's easier, and in some ways it is, but you got to look at the whole picture. Like, sure, it's easier for the thing that you're doing right now, but what about down that? What about that? And what about that? And what about that? And what about that? You've got all these tasks that you're going to do downstream, right? And by not doing these things in AppSheet, where I can have it all, everything's kind of aware of what's going on, and it all plays nicely. Like instead of doing that, now I've got this other thing over here, and I've got to somehow get this to tell this that like, hey, we're done. But you see what I mean? Like there's difficulties that are introduced by doing that. I try and stick everything inside AppSheet, inside of a bot. The difficulty, documentation on how to use automation is spotty at best. That is just a matter of asking questions to me, probably. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't made any dedicated video. I have made a few, but I don't have like an automation 101 type of thing because there really is. I've thought about it. It's a very difficult topic to like 101. You know what I mean? Because it's just so broad. So it's more, what are the problems that you're working on? So if you just give me some examples of what you're trying to do, perhaps I could guide on how I might accomplish something like that using the automation system. Because you've got access to processes so that you can do, like, there's a lot of things that you can do inside of a bot that mirror the exact things that you would do inside of a script. It's just now it's done inside AppSheet with this little GUI interface, right? You just got to figure out how it all connects together. Anyways, moving on. Let's do this next one. Comes to us from I'm a Merwanda. Cool. Hi, Master. I want to ask, can we let live location in AppSheet? And can AppSheet be used to record the speed of driving lively? This is a very common question. Can AppSheet do like live things? And the answer is largely no. AppSheet requires some form of interaction from the user in order for a thing to happen. Like if I want to record a record, the user has to interact with the device. There are some other workarounds that I've seen. Some people have created dedicated software to solve this exact problem. What's happening there is the thing I was just talking about, where you're introducing this separate system that's doing other things, and you've got to somehow get that system to tell the AppSheet system that something happened. And that is kind of a problem, sometimes depending on how you build. But largely, no, there is no way to do this. A lot of the solutions that people have tried have been, I can create a view that the person's looking at where I've got a button and that person can periodically press that, right? Or sometimes you can get a pretty, if you're doing like a delivery driver type thing, sometimes you can get a pretty smooth flow. We're going for that to where, like when they get to wherever they are, like I'm here type of thing. And then you can kind of extrapolate some stuff out of that. But like, this is one of the things that's difficult for AppSheet to solve, at least how it currently stands right now. And so really you're kind of better off trying to find a different solution. Like there's plenty of other things in the world that are for this specific thing where it's like, okay, I want to track somebody's speed over time. Find something like that. And though there's tons of those that integrate with your Google Sheet. And again, I know I just said, you should try and keep everything in AppSheet, and introducing these other systems causes, whatever. But there are some things in AppSheet that AppSheet's not good for. And so for those things, you got to go outside and then just deal with the difficulty that you're going to have there. Or don't try and do it in AppSheet. AppSheet's not the solution for everything. It's a solution for a lot, but it's not the solution for everything. Next one comes to us about the multiple filters in a view from Gordon Huai 8453. Hi there, thank you for sharing. I would like to know how did you make the enum list filter? I was making a filter for a tag function to looking up the related rows, but I could only find one item. Thank you for your help. If you've been watching earlier, you will have seen I kind of dived into that. It's a matter of using the correct formulas. When you're dealing with lists, you can't use you can't use an equal sign. Here's the rules. So if I have a single value and a single value, it's an equal sign in the middle. If I have a single value in a list, I have to use in, right? So I'm saying in this, the single value is the single value in the list, okay? And then if I have two lists, that's where you've got to do the is not blank intersect. Those are the three layers that you have to basically go through. Some of the foundational things inside of AppSheet, you have equalities, in, and intersect. Those are the three main things to accomplish what it is you're looking for. That's what you're going to have to do. Check out earlier in the video. Next one comes to us from best practices for deploying apps with offline users. This is a very sensitive topic right here. It comes from IT Department 2263. Love it. I need the view in the ref field to automatically show a value from the related table. How can I do that? Okay, let's back out a little bit. So best practices for updating an app that is offline. Let's see if I have a sample app with this. No, I don't. Okay. So if we just go back to the comment. Okay, so where'd the comment go? Here we are. In the ref field to automatically show a value in the related table. Okay. Yeah, I'm not quite sure exactly what you're asking on there. There's a lot of ways you probably do it. You're probably going to need to do a dereference. Like if I've got a field that I'm selecting something and I want something out of that, dereference, or a list dereference if you have a list. Let me know. I'll chime in on that later, see what we can get. So for enhanced dashboards sample app, Magic Noel 315 asks, let me switch to this one. Yeah, well. Hi, Matt. Very good stuff you have in your comments and videos. Very encouraging to continue exploring AppSheet. Happy to hear it. Regarding the enhanced dashboard, I have copied your apps and translated it to my app. And when everything is apparently fine after about 50 roundabouts, I try to delete a filter with the bottom saying action failed filter shipping line is invalid, which is my first filter, but also the bottom does not become red. Any idea what I may have done wrong? Yeah, so what's really probably going on here is when you try the action and it says that it failed, right? It's not actually going to make the data change that you're hoping that it's going to do. And therefore, like all of the stuff downstream won't happen. What you need to do is you got to go to this action that it's saying that like something's going wrong. And this specifically looks like if I come back here and sorry y'all, my zoom, my scroll bar, my scroll wheel on my mouse is like dying or something. So scrolling doesn't work. But like, okay, this thing like filter shipping line, like this is a column that you've got. And the value that you're trying to set this to is something that's not not following the validation for it. So go to this column and look at its validation formula that you got inside there. There's something inside that that's causing all of this to fail. And that's what you're going to have to suss out what's going wrong. Next one is about the many-to-many with select. This is the brute force side of things. Norp Florbson 8665 says, why this over dynamic slices of a lookup table associating primary keys? Would that not be cached on the device? What he's really at with what's the specific topic here is we're dealing with many-to-many references using a select statement, right? And what the specific question is why not just do some sort of dynamic lookup, and wouldn't the system just keep the value? The answer is kind of. Yes, it does, but it also recalculates that value over and 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 over. That's the problem. That's the problem with this brute force using a select to try and do many to many inside AppSheet is you end up, if you have that many select formula living inside of a virtual column, the problem you have there is that virtual column is always trying to recalculate itself. Like whenever something that's relevant to it or that it's tangentially tied to changes, this thing tries to redo something. And so that's a problem. See what I mean? And like, so that's just really slows things down. The method that I propose inside this formula thing over here is basically we're storing the idea of what has changed. So I've got a field that says this is what this record is connected to all of those many things over there, right? And when I change that, I'm storing what was removed and what was added. And it's the ability that I've stored that gives me the ability to kind of work around some of the difficulties that you'll have if you just kind of keep this a straight up dynamic thing in a virtual column. Try it. I largely encourage everybody to try the other side of what it is that I'm proposing. The thing that I don't really go into because it's long-winded and very nuanced is I've largely gone down all of these roads of, well, I'm just going to put the thing in a dynamic, I'm just going to do the one and done. And then, like, it worked. And then downstream, we found a whole bunch of problems. And so then we had to go back and rethink what we were doing up here because of the problems we were having down there. And so these are the solutions that whenever I throw these things out, and it's like, yeah, you got to add all this complicatedness to your app. You got to build all this other stuff. These are the reasons why I just largely don't go into it. But there's a lot about this many-to-many stuff. And it's never ending, really. Let's keep going here. So going on to hot linking, how to move a record with a push of a button. We've got user, I'm trying to just scan my item and then scan a new location to move it. And it keeps saying there's already a row with this key. Why can't I modify the location? Probably because the key value is using the location value. If you've got your formula set to where it's like a concatenation, and I'm saying concatenate for me the product name and the location, and that is the ID of the record that I want to make. Okay, you see how that's not unique in any way. It's unique one time. It's unique to the aspect of this product and this location. But if I'm trying to do something else, I'm trying to do something like I'm trying to do a count, right? Okay, you need to throw in some aspect of uniqueness to the ID. You can just throw unique ID to the end, problem solved. You could throw the date time, right? A date time, including the time aspect, down to the second, right? That's fairly unique. Every second, we're always moving forward, so it'll be pretty rare that you'll have any duplicates in that aspect. It happens, but it's pretty rare. So that's the problem that you're facing, is that you're trying to create a record and it won't let you do it because the key value already exists. So introduce something into the formula for the key value that will add some aspect of uniqueness to stuff, and it should solve your problem. Keeping going. We got next one for duplicate inline views inside a single related view. So No Canal 5470 says, thanks Matt for sharing your time and fantastic explanation. I have a problem. AppSheet doesn't select the inline view and I don't know how to change that. Could you help me? This is a very common problem that you'll face inside AppSheet. And the solution is fairly straightforward. You just got to think about it a little different way. The problem you're having is that you've got like a related whatevers and you need that to look at use a specific view, but it's not. It's using whatever, right? Okay, the solution to that, so let's apply some words. I have an order table that has order details, right? And I want two views of my order details. I want a table view and I want a chart. The chart is like a pie chart that shows whatever, okay? Two views of the same data. The way that I can 100% control, this is the table and this is the chart. Okay, create a slice of the order line of the order details table with no condition. Just create the slice. The reason you do that is because in AppSheet, slices are treated the exact same way as a table. A slice is basically a table. They're the same thing, which means you can give it dedicated views. And so that's how you go about this. You create your slice, and then you go and you create a dedicated view. So like I'll create a slice that is order detail pie chart, right? And then I'll create a dedicated inline view that's a pie chart for whatever I want. Then in the virtual column that I want to be the pie chart, right? In that, there's settings that say this is a list of records from a specific table. Instead of selecting the root table, select the slice. That tells the system, don't look over there, look over there, and your problem is solved. And that's where you can use that same sort of that same strategy to where I want to do different behavior when somebody clicks on one of the records over here versus one of these records over there. Create the slice, create the view. In the view for these special records, there's a view event. In the view event, put whatever you want to happen there. So when somebody clicks on this one, that happens. When somebody clicks on this one, it just does whatever the normal thing is. It's all about creating that slice, and then you can create the dedicated views that you want. And then you got to tell stuff to not look at the original table, but to look at the slice instead. And then everything starts pointing that way. Happy days. That's how you do it. Moving on back here. The next question comes to us from Unbox Racing about the databases. I hope they will go to public release soon. This is for the public databases video. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the databases thing yet. You know what I mean? Like, I've gone over there and played with it, and it's still early days, so you gotta reserve judgment on it right now. But, largely I find the flexibility that you have with the Google Sheet to be the way to go. Not only is it more flexible, right, but you also have the aspect of scripts and things. And I know I said earlier not to, don't do that, but like that is there, and that is an avenue that you can, that's a whole huge avenue that you can go down if you want. I like having that flexibility, right? I like being able to, if I wanted to, and I wanted to go against the standards and I wanted to do some AppSheet fuckery, I can do that if I want. I can create all kinds of scripts that do whatever over here and they modify my sheets, and then I just got to figure out how to tell AppSheet that thing is done. Done, whatever. So, yeah. I largely like the flexibility you get with Google Sheets. So that's my thing. Maybe in the future, there will be some amazing aspects to that database thing, but you got to give it time to get there. Maybe. We'll see. Somebody else asking here about how do you feel about the new chat apps? Yeah. If you've played around with the chat apps at all, I'm really curious to know what you think about them. Myself, largely, myself largely, again, it's still very early days. There's a lot of potential there. But you need to give them time to get everything smoothed out. Like right now, it's pretty clunky. Like you've got to configure everything in AppSheet, and then you got to go to GCP, and you got to configure everything over there. Eventually, that'll get smoothed out to where you don't have to do it. You just do it in AppSheet. Like once these things get smoothed out like that, to where I can establish the things that I want the chat bot to be able to do, there's a lot of potential there. Yeah, and the ability, like the interaction style of the chat is, far more advantageous. It's easier to work with in a lot of ways. So yeah, there's a lot of potential there. There's a lot of promise. I'm really excited to see where they're going to go with that. Coming to the end of the questions here. So if you have any questions that you want answered for your live projects, get them in the chat. I'm going to be diving into that here in a second. Come over here. Excuse me. The next one is about the Quick Chart 101. Yep, I need to continue that video series. More are coming. The question comes up from Roy Pesik? 8564, whatever. Sir, how do you export to a .doc file? So it's like the mail merge system, but the output is .doc, not .pdf. The problem is that when I try to PDF, the format is messed up. Yeah, this is something that you'll face continuously when you're working on trying to export any of the things that you've built. Trying to get it to look just right is, it's not impossible, but it takes work. There's a lot that you got to do. It takes a lot of iterations in order to get it. Because it's like, the table needs to be just a smidge a little bigger. Nope, up too much. Just a smidge back. Oh, that wasn't up. Just a smidge over here. And like, you see each of those is like, all right, move it, wait for it to save, go back to the app, hit the thing, wait for it to do, go look at the thing, grab it, wait for it to update. All right, now look at it. Nope, it's not enough. Now go, you see, like that whole chain in order to get back to see what it looked like. That's the difficulty you face with working with automation, trying to output documents and things like this. I don't think you can output a doc. I don't think that's a file format that's supported. I will say there is a really good series inside a series of posts inside the community that was done by Oscar, talking about pixel perfect reports. And he focused on using HTML instead of a PDF, because one of the file formats you can output is an HTML. And so there's a lot that you can do with HTML, and you just got to just make it look right, right? So maybe that's an aspect you might try, go to like an HTML builder, because there's a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? Go to wherever, build the HTML document that you want, and just take the code and then make it dynamic inside your bot. Might be the way you wanted to go. I highly suggest you go check out that series that Oscar did in the AppSheet community. I believe the name is Pixel Perfect Reports, or Pixel Perfect Files, or PDFs, or something of this nature. It's Pixel Perfect, I remember, is the keyword that I'm keying in on. Let's go to the next one. So the next one comes to us about using automation to mass update stuff. From Zocown Limited, whole bunch of numbers. Hey, Matt, excuse me. Is there any way for this to process through errors? It gets stuck on cells that violate the if statement. If the row is an inactive employee where the validation says active employees, but they're no longer, and then it won't run. This is a very common problem that you'll face, and it's all due to, this aspect of I've got a validation formula that worked at the time when I was creating the record, but later on it doesn't work anymore. The solution, right, is that formula that you have that in your valid if, change it. What you got to do is you need to add in an if statement that brings in some aspect of temporalness to things. So what you're talking about here is you've got a list of active employees, right? And so the drop down, it has a valid if to where maybe I have a slice of all of my active employees. And so I'm saying, get for me all of the values over there. And those are the only things that I can use, right? Okay, so when I'm creating the record, I need it to be the active employees. After I create the record, I need it to be all of the employees, right? Or after a while, I'll need that to switch over. Maybe there's a status column inside this thing that we're dealing with, or there's a status, maybe not in this record, but in the parent that it belongs to. And maybe I could key off of that, where I could say, if the order status equals complete, then don't use the active employee list. Instead, use the entire employee list. This way, it's no longer restricted to just the active guys. It'll allow anybody that's in the system. And I don't need to actually run that validation anymore because the time when that was relevant is over. It's past. Follow me? That's the solution that I've largely found that works really well for this. Is you just got to put an if statement in there, and it's a matter of sussing out what is the condition that I need for the if statement. The next one, this is a really good one that I found here. So talking from last week's live stream, from Alan Thorpe, this is talking about the idea of seesaw bugs. Just to kind of give you a refresh there are certain things inside the AppSheet platform that are bugs that get fixed, and then they deploy and they get broken, and then we tell them about it and they fix it, and then they deploy and it breaks, and then we tell them about it and they fix it, and then they deploy and it breaks, and then it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I call them seesaw bugs. One of the things that I was talking about last time was, hold on, let me give this, there we go. One of the things I was talking about for this one is the specific seesaw bug for this was the aspect of right now in the new desktop experience, the record that you're creating is, if I have like a validation that says, you know, select all of the records from this where the ID does not equal this row. That doesn't seem to work right now. Alan's solution that he's proposing out here is to use a timestamp inside the system to where I'm saying, you know, the validation is somehow looking at, you know, like now is less than this minus some time or something. Absolutely works. I've actually done something like this myself in order to kind of work around the problem. Where you throw in a time aspect where you say, you know, this field is valid, like the valid formula only applies after 2 minutes. But you see the problem, like, then I can't use my valid if formula. Really, they need to solve the problem. And if you're paying attention to the release notes, they've been focusing on this, and there is a solution that they're pushing out, but they're pushing it slowly because it's a very complicated issue that they're dealing with. And so, yeah. If you have mission critical software and that you're building, and this is a problem that you're facing, the solution is to turn off the new desktop experience. I have tried 14,000 ways. Like, I've legit spent like probably 2 hours trying to solve this problem, where like just trying different versions of valid if, like throwing if statements in there, throwing time things in there, throwing whatever. Like, is there a way that I could get this to work 100% to where the validation still works, but it doesn't have this issue with the record being in there? No. There's no way to do it right now. Like, this is a fundamental bug that they gotta solve. And so if you have mission critical software where this is a problem, the solution is just turn off the new desktop experience for now. The solution is coming. So for right now, you just got to deal with the new desktop experience. You know, you don't get to play with the new stuff. And it looks really nice. That's the problem, is that when you turn that off, it's like, wow, this really kind of sucks now. Like, it's really difficult to work back here. Coming up on the last ones. All right, so we got, in fact, the last one is this last one here. Controlling Google Contacts with a script. If you've been paying attention to this, you'll see The Contacts app is now depreciated, and there is now a People API. In preparation for this live stream, I was thinking maybe I'd do a deep dive in how to do this. And I went over and I started looking at the People API documentation and discovered it's a little more complicated than just straightforward one and done. Like there's actually a lot involved in getting some of this done, right? And so, yeah, there's going to need to be a series involved in that. It is something that I'm working on, and it will be coming down the line here in the future. It's just a matter of synthesizing all of the instructions of what we need to do and making them easily digestible inside a nice package. But we'll get there. All right. That's the questions that have been piling up on YouTube. Thank you, everybody who chimed in. I really do appreciate it. Now, let's get to the live one. All right. Moving on to the live chat. So, we come over here and we look at this. So, starting at the very top, Mac Zero Fun. Nice name, love it. Okay, so is it possible to add reminders to your Google Calendar from AppSheet? This is something that I've been kind of trying to figure out with, I've got the answer portal. Part of that is I have regularly scheduled meetings with the apprentices. And so I've been trying to find a way where like I want the app to create the calendar entry. But the calendar entries have a recurrence every month, and turns out it's a little more complicated than just, hey, create the thing and do it every month. Like that turns out to be a little more complicated. You've got and the calendar integration with AppSheet doesn't allow for recurrence. Like that is not one of the options that we can change. Perhaps if we did a feature request and we had enough votes on it, they'd add that. But right now, that's not an option that we can change natively through the calendar integration. So you have to create a script that you can execute through a bot where you say, here's the ID of the calendar entry for this, make a recurrence, right? But you see there's that, right? I'm working on stuff like that to try and smooth some of this out to make it easy for you all, hopefully in the near future. Next one comes to us from Vast CNC. The question is, would it be possible to update your order table from an Etsy or Amazon Seller Central API, or from like maybe a table that they have over there, using a live webhook or an API? Absolutely. Yeah, you could totally do that. You'd have to create, right? So there's two sides to these things. You've got the AppSheet side, where you've got, the stuff that you're working on, where it's like the user interface and all of that. And then you've got your Amazon side. And so what you've got to do is you've got to go over here, and they've got an API, and you have to configure that to send stuff back over here. Couple of ways you could go about that. You could create a script that basically creates an API endpoint for your Google Sheet, and then this throws that to that API endpoint. That's how I'm accomplishing the Stripe integration that I'm working on for the answer portal. The reason I did that is because that gives a nice asynchronicity to it. Like I can have a bot in AppSheet that like throws something over there, and then like whatever happens over there happens over there. And when it's done, it throws that to the API, which is just sitting there waiting to catch stuff, right? The other side of that is you could keep that all natively inside of a bot where I could create a script that does all of that stuff. But instead of having an API that catches the information and then handling it that way, I could just create the script to where I shoot it off and then it returns a value back to AppSheet, and then AppSheet does all of the downstream stuff from there. There's trade-offs to when you would do one strategy versus another. This is something that I'm sussing out right now, and in the videos that'll come in the coming weeks, I'll hopefully have some really concrete, solid answers that'll guide you guys a little more concisely. The next one comes to us from S4NG_4. Hello, Matt. Can you suggest a way to join 5 different tables into a single one. I don't want to use any actions for simplicity. Okay, first off, you're going to want to use actions. Actions are the way that you can make everything easy inside AppSheet. Like there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of data changes that you need to accomplish in order to get from like I'm here and then I want to get here, right? Like I have the data in this way and like I want to get to this point. Getting to this is going to be accomplished primarily through actions. So I would take the time to kind of understand how they work, what the different types are, get a little, foundation, if you will, whatever. That's going to really help you through things. But all right, so connecting 5 tables together. There's no rule that says that you can only connect 2 tables together with like a single join table. Like I've got products and customer products, and then I have like a join table. I have products and customers, and then I have a join table, customer products, that connects the 2 together. There's nothing that says that that's the only thing that this customer products table could be reference connected to. I could very well have 16 different reference connections inside this one table, connecting it all over the place. In fact, to bring about high level excuse me. In fact, to bring about high-level functionality downstream, you really do need your records reference connected to a whole bunch of stuff. One of the things that I keyed in on at the early stages of things was like, okay, so I used to watch like CSI and some of them other investigative shows like that. Okay, every once in a while, you'll hear somebody say something like, cross-reference that with a list of whatever. The way that that's happening is they've got a database, and inside those records, there's another column that's a reference connection between this and some other table over there. So if I want to cross-reference some bit of data with some other things, like I've got a list of orders. All right, now let's cross-reference that with my list of active employees. And let's cross-reference that with a list of these states. And let's cross-reference that with a list of whatever. Okay, the way that I'm accomplishing all of that is that I've got all of these different references inside whatever these records are that I'm trying to deal with. Like I'm dealing with orders, right? So my order table has a reference to the customers. It has a reference to product category. It has a reference to the state. It has a reference to the tax bracket that it belongs to. It has a reference to the this. Now, all of these are other tables, right? Like, and then on all of these, because I've reference connected them, if I use a hard reference, all of these will have a list of related orders. Now, when you start doing stuff like this is where you get to the real meat and potatoes, how you can create crazy complicated things that are really lightweight. Because now I can say, intersect that list of stuff with that list of stuff, right? Now, let's say that I'm dealing with a single record and it's reference connected to a customer. And in that customer, I have a list of products. And then on here, I have this connected to a location. And on that location, I have a list of products. And I need to get, well, what is the list of products for this specific thing that this thing belongs to? Okay, if I have these reference connections set up in this way, on this record, this is connected to a customer, this is connected to a location. Those 2 places have a corresponding list of apples and apples products. So I can say, cool, give me that list, intersect the 2, that's the corresponding result. That would be the result of a brute force that I would have to do where I say, select for me all of the products where, and the customer product link equals this row.customer, and the product link location is this row.location. Brute forced everywhere. If I set up the cross-reference points, I don't have to do the brute force. The lists are already done. I just say, go to that list and what's common. Done, moving on. Just like that. So this whole cross-reference thing is really kind of the way to go. You're going to, like, references are the heartbeat of everything. And these are the things that I'm going to start covering here in the coming coming months. I'm working on some foundational things like this. A couple more questions. We'll move on. We'll end things up for the rest of this month. Vast CNC coming down here with some more questions. As soon as you drop the bomb, your audio started cutting out. It's been choppy for the last minute. Oh, it was your end. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Sorry. If I try and keep an active view on the live stream, YouTube gives pretty good feedback about, what's the health of the stuff. So, like, if I ever have any problems, y'all just let me know because I'll fix it. Last one down. Last question here comes from Thomas. Long-time subscriber, long-time commenter, always here. Thomas, I appreciate you always showing up. The question is, you have a geocoding app in your portfolio. The included app script throws a code error for me in Germany. Yeah, that's, I'm not sure exactly how the geocoding script is set up inside that, but I'm betting that there's something that's probably telling that thing, like US. You know what I mean? Or time zone or something of that nature. Solution, like, this is largely my solution for everything nowadays. Is like, all right, let's go to ChatGPT and be like, I need a Google, I need a, like, here you go, let me zoom in down here. Like, this is largely how I said, I need a Google app script function that will blah, 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 right? And then come down here and be like, here's a script to start from. How would you modify it? You know what I mean? Then come down here and like do this, do some markdown stuff, and then like, blah, 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 like all the code crap here, right? And then like, and you do something like this, and like doing all of this, where you tell it, I need something that will do whatever. Here's something to start from, and like feed it the script, like feed it my script, right? This thing is going to solve it. This thing will solve your problem 100%. And maybe not in the first shot, like you may need to kind of like back and forth with it. Like it'll give you a script and it might be wrong. There might be like one little thing that's not right. Like it's saying, oh, use this function, but that's maybe not a real thing. Or it's like, use this library, but that library is not a real thing. It's just a matter of like, all right, well, that's not a library. How would you do it if you didn't do that? And it would give you another thing. And they'd be like, all right, well, that doesn't work. I get this error. And like, give it the error. It'll solve this for you. I've been able to like, I've been able to solve a whole bunch of my scripting problems that I've had because there's a lot of nuance that you have to be aware of when building a script. ChatGPT is largely the way to go. That's the place to do that. So that's what I would suggest that you do. Head on over there. Check it out. All right, everybody, that is all I've got for this episode. Thanks for sticking around. It's been a little longer. I try and keep things to an hour. We're at an hour and a half. But there's a lot of really good information that was covered inside this one. Kind of got into some weeds, but weeds are kind of fun to walk through every once in a while. Thanks for being here. Just kind of touch on what I got planned for next month. Okay, so I have been diligently working on trying to simplify the instruction set on how to evolve the open AI system that I've been showing how to build so far, right? So up to now, what we've gotten is we've got the ability to send information back, to send a prompt, get it back, to have a continued conversation where context is maintained. We've added in the ability to put in a front instruction set so that we can tell it what we want it to do before we start having a conversation. And we've thrown in a supporting information section at the bottom after the thread history so that we can provide it some more relevant information that's for whatever the current question is. So the future evolution that I'm doing for this now is for the whole rest of March, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that supporting information section and I'm going to show you how you can take your database, your knowledge base that you have that's stored inside your AppSheet app in some way, to take that and use semantic similarity search to first identify what information in our database is relevant to what this person is asking. And then to take all of that and combine it together into a nice, neat prompt that we then send to the AI, and we can then have a continued conversation with that, specific to the stuff that I have in my database. It's a very complex it's a very complex thing. There's a lot of moving parts to this. So stick around, make sure you subscribe, like, do all of that happy stuff. That's all I've got for this week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing, liking the videos, for the comments, for the interactions, for everything that you do. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, that's all I've got. Stay happy, stay healthy, and remember, when you're working on your AppSheet app and you hit a roadblock, say it with me. Keep calm and AppSheet on!